right, guys, finally, Macaulay Culkin. We've got some pretty big news. Try not to do, well, this.
At 45 years old, Macaulay Culkin has survived something most child stars never escape. The blonde kid who made us laugh in Home Alone grew up to become a cautionary tale that Hollywood still whispers about. But what really happened behind those bright eyes and that mischievous grin? The answer isn't what the tabloids sold you for decades. This isn't the sanitized version where a child star got famous, partied too hard, and cleaned up his act. This is the raw truth about what happens when the people meant to protect you see dollar signs instead of a son. It's about a boy who learned that love always came with a price tag, and sometimes the cost of survival is everything you thought you were. The journey to this moment of reckoning began long before Kevin McCallister defended his house from burglars. It started in a cramped New York apartment, where dreams were currency and children were investments. The investment. Macaulay Culkin entered the world on August 26, 1980, in Manhattan. He was the third of 7 children born to Kit and Patricia Culkin. And from his first breath, his value was being calculated. Kit Culkin was a failed actor whose own dreams had died before they ever really lived. Every audition he bombed, every role he didn't get, festered inside him like an infected wound. When his own dreams died, he did what damaged people often do. He found someone else to carry them. That someone was Macaulay. At 4 years old, while other kids were learning to tie their shoes, Macaulay was memorizing lines for commercials. Kit didn't see this as exploitation. He called it opportunity. The Culkin apartment was chaotic, cramped, and cash-strapped. 7 kids in a New York City railroad apartment meant privacy was a luxury they couldn't afford, and stability was something other families had. Kit wasn't just ambitious, he was obsessive. He enrolled Macaulay in ballet classes because child actors needed to be nimble, disciplined, controlled. The training was brutal for a small body. 14-hour days became normal before Macaulay hit first grade. While neighborhood kids played stickball in the streets, Macaulay was running lines, perfecting expressions, becoming a product his father could sell. The auditions came in waves. Macaulay booked his first commercial at 4, then another, then a small stage role. Kit's eyes lit up with each paycheck, each callback, each hint that his meal ticket was developing. Patricia watched her son disappear into work with growing unease. But challenging Kit meant risking everything. He controlled the money, made the decisions, and reminded everyone constantly that he knew best. Kit was very good at breaking people's spirits and holding them down. He did it to all of them, including Patricia. The father's control wasn't just psychological. It was designed to keep Macaulay dependent, grateful, and most importantly, compliant. The $476 million trap. By 1990, Macaulay had appeared in several films, but nothing prepared anyone for what Home Alone would become. The movie was a gamble, a Christmas comedy centered entirely on a 10-year-old carrying a major studio film. If it flopped, Macaulay would be just another kid who almost made it. Instead, it became a cultural phenomenon that made $476 million worldwide. Overnight, Macaulay Culkin became the most famous child on the planet. He beat Rocky at the box office. David Letterman called him a bona fide star, the hottest guy in show business. His face was on lunchboxes, posters, magazine covers. Everywhere he went, people screamed his name, grabbed at him, wanted pieces of him. For Kit, it was vindication. His instincts had been right. His investment had paid off beyond his wildest projections. But for Macaulay, fame at 10 years old wasn't magical. It was suffocating. The irony of Home Alone's premise wasn't lost on him years later. He played a kid who gets accidentally left behind and discovers the joy of freedom, making his own rules, living without supervision. In reality, Macaulay was never alone, never free, never able to make a single decision without his father's approval. Here's the part that reveals just how twisted Kit's control was. Macaulay was the breadwinner for a family of 9. He was the most famous kid on Earth, making more money than most adults could dream of. And he didn't have a bed. He slept on the couch with his brother, while Kit enjoyed a big bed and a big television in his own room. It was a deliberate choice. Kit wanted to break Macaulay's spirit. He wanted his son to know that no matter how much money he made, no matter how famous he became, Kit was in charge. If Kit didn't want him sleeping in a bed, Macaulay wasn't sleeping in a bed. The message was clear: you're nothing without me. The sequel came in 1992. Lost in New York earned Macaulay $4.5 million, making him the highest-paid child actor in history. By the time he was 14, Macaulay had done 14 movies in 6 years, more than 2 a year, just pumping them out, making God knows how much money. Kit renegotiated every contract with the aggression of a mob lawyer, demanding more money, more control, more everything. But here's the thing that makes it even more grotesque. Macaulay never read a single script, not one. In 14 films, he had no idea what the movies were actually about until he showed up to the premiere and watched them with everyone else. He had no say in his career, his roles, his schedule, nothing. He was a performing seal, and Kit held all the fish. Studios paid because Macaulay was box office gold, but every dollar went straight to Kit, who managed it with the transparency of an offshore account. Behind closed doors, Kit's management style turned darker. Control became obsession. Macaulay wasn't allowed friends outside the industry. He was homeschooled to maximize working hours. His siblings were either enlisted in the family business or ignored entirely. Night after night, wherever they were filming, Kit would lock Macaulay in hotel rooms to study his lines. Every night, trapped in a room with a crazy person. Macaulay never went to regular school. One of his Home Alone castmates said he didn't even know how to catch a ball or play tag. His whole life was work, isolation, and Kit's relentless control. The verbal abuse was constant. Nothing Macaulay did was good enough. Every performance could have been better. Every take needed more energy. Every opportunity was being wasted. Kit had perfected the art of making his son feel simultaneously special and worthless. You're a star, but you're nothing without me. You're talented, but you're lazy. You're rich, but it's my money. But Kit's control extended beyond words. The physical violence was real, creating an atmosphere of fear that kept everyone in the household walking on eggshells. Cast members said they had to avoid Kit's outbursts on every set. One casting director eventually admitted that people would tell him Macaulay was too expensive and his father was too much. The abuse was damaging more than just Macaulay's childhood. It was destroying his career. The breaking point. By 1994, Macaulay was 14 and starting to understand exactly how wrong his childhood had been. He'd earned tens of millions of dollars and never seen a bank statement. He was one of the most recognizable faces in the world, but couldn't go to a mall without security. He'd been supporting a family of 9 since he was 10 years old. Macaulay was going crazy, and no one was listening to him. The pressure was building, the rage was mounting, and Kit could feel his son slipping from his grasp. One weekend, Macaulay went somewhere and didn't tell his father. It was a small act of rebellion, a tiny assertion of independence. For Kit, it was intolerable. When Macaulay returned, Kit was waiting. He got very angry. Then he gave Macaulay a swipe across the cheek. Macaulay just went down. Kit told him to get up. Macaulay looked at him and said he wasn't going to fight. He knew that's what Kit wanted. Macaulay's brother walked into the apartment during the assault. Macaulay told his father off, locked himself in his room, and did something 14-year-old kids shouldn't have to do. He called 911 on his own father. Police arrived at the Culkin residence late that night. When officers showed up, Kit admitted to striking his son, claiming it was over missed school and a messy room. But this time, the violence had escalated beyond what could be hidden. Calling the police on your own father at 14 takes a specific kind of desperation. It means you've run out of options. It means you're choosing survival over family loyalty, safety over keeping secrets. Macaulay wasn't going to let Kit get away with those things anymore. The 911 call became a turning point. After that night, the whole family began to fall apart. His parents separated, and their custody battle turned ugly and intense. Patricia, caught between her husband's rage and her children's suffering for years, finally had to choose sides. In 1995, Macaulay sued for emancipation from his parents. A 15-year-old kid was divorcing his parents to protect himself and his fortune. The court battle was ugly, public, and revealing. Financial records showed Kit had control of approximately $17 million of Macaulay's earnings, with virtually no oversight. The media had a field day. Poor little rich boy. The ungrateful son. Tabloids spun it as a spoiled celebrity turning his back on family. They missed the real story. This was a child protecting himself from the people who'd exploited him his entire life. Macaulay won. His parents were removed from financial control. Kit disappeared from his life almost immediately, which told Macaulay everything he needed to know. Without access to the money, Kit had no use for his son. Patricia remained in the picture, though their relationship would stay complicated for decades. At 15, Macaulay finally took control of his own life and destiny. He could make decisions solely for his benefit, not for anyone else to make money on. He jumped in and said he was retired. At 14 years old, Macaulay Culkin walked away from Hollywood entirely. The Unlikely Brother. Between 2000 and 2010, Macaulay became Hollywood's favorite ghost story. He lived in New York, mostly in his apartment, venturing out rarely. During this decade of deliberate obscurity, one friendship mattered more than any other. Michael Jackson. The media treated their friendship with suspicion and innuendo, which reveals more about our culture than about either of them. Two of the most famous child performers in history found genuine understanding in each other. Both had been thrust into spotlights before they could consent. Both had controlling, abusive fathers who saw them as assets. Both knew what it meant to have the world think they owned you. Michael understood what it felt like to have your childhood dissected by millions of strangers. He knew the specific loneliness of being famous before you understand what famous means. When they spent time together, they didn't have to explain the trauma. They could just exist without the weight of constant performance. When Michael passed away in 2009, Macaulay lost one of the few people who truly understood his specific brand of damage. Michael named Macaulay godfather to his children, a gesture of trust that spoke to their real connection. The loss hit Macaulay hard, adding another layer of grief to an already heavy load. The Death Watch. Then came the Death Watch. Starting around 2012, tabloids began running photos of Macaulay looking gaunt, pale, tired. Entertainment Tonight posted photos under the headline, Macaulay Culkin's Gaunt Photo. The media claimed he had a $6,000 a month substance problem. Anonymous sources said he had 6 months to live. Every few months, a new report surfaced claiming he was on his deathbed, that interventions were being planned, that the end was near. But the reality was far more painful than tabloid fiction. Macaulay was dealing with severe depression after escaping his father. In 2008, his older sister Dakota was killed in a tragic car accident. The loss devastated him. His mental health slowly began to fall apart. He would spend 12 hours a day in his bathtub. He had no appetite. Food he loved didn't even taste good anymore. What felt worse was when he woke up and didn't feel anything at all. You're feeling nothing, but also feeling hurt because you don't care anymore, he later said. That's the scary stuff you really have to figure out. The photos were real. Macaulay was thin, sometimes extremely thin. But the narrative was tabloid fiction designed to sell papers. His reps insisted he was in perfect health, while anonymous sources claimed he was dying. The truth was somewhere in between. He was struggling, but not in the way the tabloids wanted. During this period, Macaulay was actually figuring out who he was outside of childhood stardom. He formed the Pizza Underground, a pizza-themed Velvet Underground cover band that was either brilliant performance art or the weirdest project ever. He started a comedy website called Bunny Ears that showed he still had a sense of humor about his own absurdity. In 2016, he finally addressed the death rumors directly, looking healthy and genuinely amused. No, he wasn't dying. The photos were real, but the stories were fantasy. The experience taught him that once the media decides your narrative, truth becomes optional. The redemption. But something real did change around 2017. Macaulay met Brenda Song on the set of a movie called Changeland. She was also a former child star, having grown up on Disney Channel's The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. They understood each other's histories without explanation, spoke the same language of childhood exploitation and adult recovery. Brenda wasn't impressed by his fame because she'd had her own. She wasn't intimidated by his past because she'd lived a version of it. The relationship was different from anything Macaulay had experienced before. They could be weird together, broken together, healing together. Friends noticed Macaulay seemed lighter, more present, more willing to engage with the world. In April 2021, they had a son. Macaulay named him Dakota, after his sister who'd been killed in the car accident. The name was both tribute and promise. Macaulay was getting a chance to rewrite the script, to be the parent Kit Culkin never was. Fatherhood transformed something fundamental in Macaulay. There's a word he uses in his household now, a word he didn't hear enough growing up: proud. He's proud of his kids. He's proud of himself that he can provide for his family the right way, that he can love his family the right kind of way. Every decision Kit made wrong, Macaulay makes right. His son would never be put in front of a camera for money, would never have his childhood commodified, would never learn that love and value are measured in box office receipts. Macaulay guards his family's privacy fiercely, refusing to post photos, declining to discuss details, building walls that protect rather than imprison. The contrast is stark. Kit paraded Macaulay in front of every camera he could find, maximizing exposure to maximize profit. Macaulay hides his son from public view entirely, prioritizing childhood over career opportunities. He learned the hard way that being set up for life means nothing if you don't get to have a childhood first. In 2021, Macaulay returned to acting on his own terms with American Horror Story. It wasn't a comeback in the traditional sense. He didn't need career rehabilitation or public approval. He took a role because it interested him, filmed his scenes, and went back to his private life. Hollywood learned to work on Macaulay's schedule, or not at all. When he accepted the role, he thanked Brenda publicly. "You are absolutely everything," he said. "You're my champion." In December 2023, Macaulay received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The ceremony was surreal. The man who'd rejected Hollywood for decades was being honored by the very industry that had chewed him up. He showed up with Brenda and their sons, accepted the recognition, and gave a speech that was vintage Macaulay. Funny, self-deprecating, aware of every irony. At 45, Macaulay Culkin is a father, a partner, an occasional actor, and a person who's figured out how to exist authentically in a world that decided who he was when he was 10. He's chosen privacy over publicity, authenticity over approval, and his children's protection over any career opportunity.